Most companies spend 6 to 12, sometimes even more months for building their whole data infrastructure. I think they don't even see an insight in that time. What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that is I call this hope analytics. And this whole thing never really works. Because, as you know, hope is not a strategy.
How can data be turned into profit? It shows you potential cases where you can make more revenue. Or it shows you potential cases where you could save costs.
This whole process takes between 2 and 4 weeks. 2 and 4 weeks, not 6, 9, 12 months. After 2 days, when the guys came, Teresa, what we noticed in one sales region, there's a sales decline of 50K from June to July last year, and it's been holding on for the rest of the year. That is 9 times 50, it's 450K. More revenue. At the same time, to those listening and watching us here, how many of you can really say that something like this is not happening in your business?
I would say not many. Most companies spend 6 to 12, sometimes even more months for building their whole data infrastructure. I think they don't even see an insight in that time. Now, you've been in this business for 35 years with over 400 clients. I think you stopped counting at 1,500 projects. I want to ask you, what's wrong with that?
Well, just about everything now.
Okay.
In principle, what's wrong with that is I call this hope analytics. Now, let me explain what I mean. So what you just said, right? It takes 6, 9, 12 months, sometimes even more. So what they do, they start collating the data from all kinds of different sources, ERP, CRM, MES, internal databases, build a great data warehouse, build all the pipelines, then put some reports on top and hope that the business people will really use these reports. That's what the BI teams, the analytic teams, hope for. The business people on the other side hope that what they told their BI people, their BI teams, their analytics teams, that they would get what they really need.
They hope to get it as well.
That's what I hope. That's why I call this hope analytics. And this whole thing never really works. Because, as you know, hope is not a strategy.
You say it like this. It's very obvious. It doesn't work. But then...
hang on. It's not that obvious, because if you look at most of the companies, the way they approach BI projects, that's exactly how they do it.
Okay, but the way you stated it, but because there needs to be a different way. So we don't want to think in problems. We want to think in solutions. What's the solution? What's the alternative?
Well, the alternative here is you flip this whole thing. Okay? The way you flip it is you say, okay, all this data that we have got, can it be turned into profit? Now you say, hang on, you're talking about BI, and all of a sudden you're talking about profit and things like this. Listen, what's the visible part? What's the part of reporting and analytics that people work with? It's dashboards and reports, it's bots, it's agents, right? Well, and if these dashboards and reports, if these bots, these agents do not help improving the performance of a whole business or a particular area of this business, then we have not only achieved nothing, we actually created damage. We discussed this already several times. Now, see, and this is where hope analytics is a very dangerous strategy, okay? And that's what I started when I said, okay, we need to see if, but then not only if, but which part of the data can actually be turned into profit.
Let me just quickly turn into profit to make it kind of tangible. How can data be turned into profit? It shows you potential cases where you can make more revenue, or it shows you potential cases where you could save costs. That's just two examples of how data can increase your profit. Sorry, with that, Beck.
But let me elaborate on this. See, the dashboards and the reports are the tools to help you make better decisions that take better, faster, more productive, effective actions.
Yeah.
Okay? Well, and if the decisions that you're making are, okay, here is a product line that we need to push more. Here is a non-productive customer or non-profitable customer that we might want to get rid of. Okay? This is kind of the performance improvements I'm talking about. And at the end, then this gets turned into profit. So let me come back. So one of the questions that are really important before you start doing anything is you ask, okay, the data that I have got, or which part of the data that I have got can be turned into profit. And for this, we have got a process that we call insight discovery. Okay? Now, let me explain you what insight discovery is and what it is all about. The principle of insight discovery is we take a data set. What does that mean? A part of the data from ERP, a part of the data from CRM system, a part of the data that was collated in Excel, JSON files, whatever. Okay, a data set of, let's say, 12 months of transactions or a couple of years of transactions. Okay, and then see, we don't build data warehouse yet. We don't build pipelines yet. Okay, we just want to make sure that the data that we might want to work with later on, and I'll get to that later, okay, really contains something valuable. That it contains what I call golden nuggets. So we take that data set. Now, people watching this might be asking, so how do you get that data set? Fine, exported it from your ERP system. Take an existing report, one of your Excel sheets, you've got those transactions. Give us those, okay? And then what we do, we combine HI and AI. HI, human intelligence, that means expertise of our consultants who deal with this. I mean, I've been around for 35 years. Some of our colleagues have been around for 25 years and 15 years and so on. So we take that, but we also take AI, and then we look at that data set like data people do, right? I say, okay, what kind of insights, what kind of signals can this data provide? What kind of answers can this data provide to the questions that are asked? Okay? And in combination of HI, human intelligence, and AI, we usually, for a data set, a decent data set, we come up with 50 to 100 different potential use cases. Well, now we need to be open and honest and say most of them, 70, 80%, are of the category that we call, so what? Yeah, you can see a signal there, but there's nothing really you can do with it.
I mean, an example could be analyzing taxes. They're just the way they are. We can't really change it. So if I were to notice, so what? I can change it.
See, we would, for instance, if the tax regulations would change, we would immediately see in that data, taxes has increased. We would raise the hand and say, taxes have increased. There's a signal. Yeah, say, so what?
Yeah.
Ain't much we can do about it. So, and then we go to our people, to future users. And we tell them, well, this is kind of the insights your data contains. And in the first step, most of them already have got some questions that they know they want to have answered, okay? But they still don't have that. Dashboards and reports that would really help them answer those questions. Well, these are the low-hanging fruits. That's what we did. We know, okay, fine. So you'd like to know this, and this. Oh, well, we found a use case that we're going to implement for you immediately. Obviously, we then asked them the question, fine, if you will have these signals, what would that bring you? How would that improve the performance of the area that you're responsible for? And if they say, yeah, that would bring me quite a lot, fine. Boom, we've got the first use case. But that is just the first step. The really interesting thing happens in the next step. I told you, we use HI and AI. So we identify all kinds of potential signals and answers to the questions that might be asked. For which of some of those questions people don't even know they could be asking. But the answers to these questions could be super valuable for them. And this is then this 20-30% where I said that are not of the category so what, but of the category, oh, very interesting, or interesting to very interesting. And then we take those and provide them a dashboard or report that answers those questions or visualizes those signals. So here's what happens. This whole process takes between 2 and 4 weeks. 2 and 4 weeks, not 6, 9, 12 months. 2 and 4 weeks. So what is the implication of that? Now, think about it. First, they get a couple of reports that answer the questions that they know they have within a couple of weeks. We haven't built a data warehouse. We haven't spent months. We haven't spent hundred thousands. Within a couple of weeks, they get dashboards and reports that already help them. But on top of that, they get dashboards and reports that provide them answers to the questions they didn't even know.
Can you give me an example of this?
All right, I'll give you an example. I like to talk about, I call it the Teresa story, okay? And in my keynotes and my presentations, I give this example. So, let me tell you the story. And the story goes, Teresa got hired in January by a business owner as a head of sales, new head of sales. The business owner was kind of thinking, I'd like to prepare my company for the exit, right? And in a year or two.
Just prepare for the exit. They want to sell the business.
They want to sell the business, right? And then say, well, one of the areas in my business that I want to improve is sales. So Teresa had great credentials. She was hired from a competitor where she really performed well. So Teresa starts her job. She's got 20 salespeople working for her, right? Well, Teresa was before in a successful company, and she knew the value of good reporting and analytics. So in the second week, she started investigating. So how are we in my new area actually performing? What are we doing? So she started asking questions. Well, one question was answered immediately. How is our overall sales evolving? And they were growing 4.5%. Okay. And then Teresa knew, actually what my CEO hired me for, he wants 10%. So I better get going. I better start doing something. So what she does, she goes to IT and says, listen, guys, I need reports that would show me what's really happening in the sales. IT says, sorry, no. We are just in the course of migration. We are just updating our ERP system. Come in 6 months, but there might be, it might happen that we'll probably, that we'll need to update our CRM system. So maybe you come towards the fourth quarter.
Well done. Yeah.
Well done, right. We love IT. And she goes to controlling and said, listen, guys, I need transparency on the sales numbers. Controlling says, it's year-end close. We need to do a lot of things, or quarter close, whatever. Controlling is always busy, right? So Teresa says, okay, then give me your data. Okay? Controlling had the data, had all the transactions. Okay? Now, again, Teresa knew better how those things could be approached. They give her an Excel sheet with 73 different columns, 2 years worth of transactional data, or 1 year with this, whatever. Okay? So she calls her BI team and says, listen, let's do inside discovery. Okay? Fine. 2 guys came, started. After 2 days, and the guys came, Teresa, what we noticed in one sales region, there's a sales decline of 50K from June to July last year, and it's been holding on for the rest of the year. Teresa says, 50K, yeah, fine. Okay, what does that mean? 50K, 300K in 6 months. We are operating at a healthy margin of 20%. That's 90K margin gone. Oh, might be worth looking at. Okay? So she says, okay, guys, why? Can you tell me why? A couple of hours later, the guy came and says, yeah, we can tell you why, because there's one product line that was sold before, and it's not being sold. It's not being pushed at all anymore. What does Teresa do? Yes, picks up phone, calls up the sales region manager, says, listen, fine, nice to meet you, right? But here's a question I've got for you. We just noticed that in last June, your sales dropped by 50K, and we just dropped that there's a product. We just noticed that there's a product line that you're not selling. The guy says, "What do you mean, this product line? I didn't even know it existed." So, long story short, what happened? The guy actually started his job in July. Okay, and there was no proper handover because the guy who was responsible for that region was let go because he joined competition. Obviously, no proper handover took place.
Yeah.
Okay. So this guy, the new guy, was actually performing well. Okay. I didn't even know he should sell this product line. Okay. The case was clear. Teresa said, let's make a decision now and take action that you're going to start. Let's sell it again. Right? Now, let's do the math together.
90K.
Okay? So, okay, what is gone in last year? That was gone. 300K, 90K margin, gone. You can't recover it anymore, right? But we're in January now, right? Let's be generous and let's say it's going to take the ramp-up period to that guy for 2 months. So he's only going to start selling this in April. Okay? So we've got 9 months for the rest of the year, right? That is 9 times 50, it's 450K. More revenue. At the same time, with not more effort, not more cost. Okay? Well, 20% margin of 450K, 90K margin in addition. Now, to those listening and watching us here, how many of you can really say that something like this is not happening in your business?
I would say not many.
Okay. Well, see, that's interesting. When I deliver my keynotes, when I ask this question, okay, actually a few hands come up. People don't even understand the question. They say, we've got that problem as well. I have not had a single presentation where someone would say, no, I'm 100% sure something like this is not happening in my business. No. See, what Germans say, Kleinvieh macht auch Mist, right? Meaning, small animal also creates manure. Okay? But it's valuable. And this adds up. Now, if you think, for those of our audience who are business owners or CEOs, what did I say? The business owner is intending to sell the company. Now, what would that mean? If at the end of the year he would sell this company, it would mean 90K of EBITDA in addition. Multiplied by, let's say, 10 normal, that's 900K, almost $1 million. Are we still talking Kleinvieh macht Mist? Are we still talking about small things?
I don't think so. But you brought the example. So, I mean, we went through the steps. We have one data set that we look at. We start with the known questions. Then we find golden nuggets. You just gave an example of a golden nugget.
Right.
So, but this was a good example. But what do we do now when someone finds a golden nugget or we find a golden nugget? What happens next?
Well, so in Teresa's case, what happened, obviously, she made a decision together with her sales region manager. They took action. They prevented losing 90K of EBITDA by the end of the year. Okay? Now, they didn't stop at that because there were a few more cases of that kind. Okay? Now, what then happens is after you have proven the value, the insight discovery, one way of looking at it is proof of value. After you have proven that your data contains valuable insights and there are ways how to dig those golden nuggets out of your data, well, there are several possibilities. Number one, well, you keep digging in the same data set, okay? Which is the cheapest way, okay? The second thing is what you could do is you take another data set, start looking for golden nuggets in another data set. Let's say that was a data set from the
ERP
from
system,
ERP on the sales
CRM.
transactions. Yeah. But then you could go in operations and look at your inventories. Okay, you could go in customer service and start looking at your incoming orders. You name it. Okay, well, using the same principle. But then this is when the companies that really get the appetite. Okay, say, okay, now we want to make this not just one-shot deal, but we really want to establish proper reporting on this. Okay, well then, and only then, Nikolai, we go and start approaching properly a BI implementation use case. And then we start building the data warehouse and use the framework, the Decide framework for implementation of BI use cases.
Just to make it very clear, we only go further if we've proven that there's potential and profit in the data.
Why else would you go about it? Why else would you spend time, energy, and money on things where, say, that gives you the so what part?
All right. So who's this for? For whom could this be interesting?
Now, that's a very interesting question. See, the way I see that, usually we would say, fine, that's for mid-sized companies between 50 and 500 million. No, that's not how I see it. This is for all the companies where the word many comes into the game. What I mean by this? Like in many customers, many products, many suppliers, many transactions, many and complex processes, many people. So if the word many comes in this context at least once in the game, usually it's several times, and this is who this is for.
All right. So there's someone out there who has the case many, who feels Hope Analytics is something they have. What can they do? How can we help?
Well, I described the process. I shared what needs to be done. Obviously, the how needs to be done. And, well, if they know the how, then they should do it. They should do it. And again, it's a combination of what we do. We fully leverage our expertise, our experience. That's the HI part. But we very, very heavily leverage AI part, especially when it comes to identifying the questions that people don't even know could be asking. The signals that they don't even know they could be looking at. Anomalies, outliers, hidden trends. This is where our well-trained models go and analyze those data sets and show us what those things are. Okay? So, if they know how to do that, then they should start like tomorrow. But if they don't know, well, we do that. Okay? And in order to see if and how that could work, this is what our game plan sessions are for. And the link to a game plan session, it's here in the notes of this video. This is how you can find us. It's 30 minutes discussion where we see, all right, let's see what kind of data sets you might have. How easy or difficult would it be for you to make this available to us? Okay. And then let's talk. But there's another possibility. We created something that we call a profit prompt. Okay. And there's also the link to how they can get this profit prompt in the description. And that's a really nice way of leveraging AI, not only HI, but AI, that they can use this profit prompt. They don't even need to give us this data. They don't even need us. Okay. They just pick the data set, run this profit prompt, the way we call it, on this data set, and the answers will be possible use cases, possible signals, possible answers to the questions they may have. And then they can do it.
All right. And if obviously then cases come out of it, we come back to the game plan session. We're very happy to help here as well, where they can have a discussion with you to walk through the results.
But of course, we're happy to.
Very good. Anything you want to add to Insight Discovery?
Well, what it turns out that for every new customer that we onboard, we more or less force them to start with Insight Discovery because of several reasons. Maybe, just maybe, and we had some cases where a customer would give us the data, and we look at the data and says, yeah, here's the insights we can get out of this data, but they said, yeah, so what?
Yeah.
Doesn't move the needle. Why bother? No, we don't want these cases. Okay. But if they are then serious, and if we then really find golden nuggets in this data, then what really happens is they get the value, what we call return on analytics, within a couple of weeks. And then it's much easier for them, for a CFO or for head of controlling to say, oh, now let's roll out a proper reporting project. Because we invested 15, 20K, whatever it is, okay? But based on what we got, based on the insights we made this kind of decisions, we took these actions, and that got us 50K, 100K, 500K, maybe even more. And then BI projects don't become cost anymore, but investment.
Profit. All right. Thank you very much. So if you want to start with Insight Discovery, there's a link in the description. Do download the Profit Discovery prompt. It's a great tool. It's about a 30-minute AI conversation which is going to really lead you. You don't need to upload any data or whatsoever. It really walks you through how you can get to those golden nuggets or in which area to start. If there's some questions along the way or Insight Discovery is something where you say you want to work with us, please book a game plan session. And apart from this, we will post weekly here on YouTube. We also post on LinkedIn. So follow us on YouTube and LinkedIn here. The Decide book, your book on the whole process of how to turn data into profit, is also in the description. So we're the Golenkos, and we see you in the next episode.